Just how bad is this for Trump right now?
Well, first of all, this goes right to the heart of what Trump is basically accused of doing when they're talking about dereliction of duty, dereliction of his constitutional oath. To uphold the Constitution. This is not something that was done passively. What the committee is showing through its depositions and its very, very damning, scathing testimony to date is that Donald Trump was a president who knew exactly what was going on, knew in advance, knew that this mob that marched to the Capitol was armed, knew what their potential was, and yet chose to do nothing. So the saying he failed to act makes it sound like, oh, well, too bad he didn't act. This was a deliberate, intentional act. And the reason that intention is so important, if it can be established, and it seems that they're doing a pretty good job of establishing this intention not to act, is it can go to the heart of criminal intent. This is where if prosecutors ultimately decide to seek federal charges against Donald Trump. Remember, the House committee is not a court. They cannot prosecute, they cannot indict or criminally charge the former president. But what they can do is pass on a lot of this testimony, the depositions, the transcripts, as they have been doing in some cases, to the U.S. Justice Department, where there the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, does have the power to potentially prosecute and pursue criminal charges against the former president. So when Adam Kinzinger, who I will note is one of the two Republicans on this 9-member panel, who's been sitting and really a rarity in the Republican Party, he and Liz Cheney, who are willing to serve on the committee and, as they say it, be the only ones in the party essentially willing to see the truth, and confront reality. Just because they're Republican doesn't mean they shouldn't be able to do that, but most Republicans haven't. But what he's basically saying is, yes, this is a deliberate decision. Trump sat there for 187 minutes at an earlier point in the hearing. At another point in the hearing, another panel member showed an actual blueprint of the White House with the Oval Office, and just right next to it, the dining room where Donald Trump sat, according to all the depositions, the testimony, sat for about 3 hours as this was going on at a dining room table facing a large screen television that was broadcasting Fox News, right-wing network in the United States, Trump supporting network, and sat there watching it, doing absolutely nothing. And as Benny Thompson, the chair of the committee, who we saw earlier, went on to say, he said, Trump was a man of unbridled destructive energy who could not be moved, literally could not be moved from that dining room chair, despite the pleas of his aides, despite the pleas of his allies, despite the pleas of his family members, despite the pleas of desperate people facing down the mob, including the police and security and law enforcement officials at the Capitol that day. He would not move. And that goes to the crux of what this hearing is about.
Of course, this hearing is being broadcast prime time, not on Fox News, as you informed me earlier. You said earlier that Donald Trump doesn't generally tune into these sessions. Is this something that might make him stand up and listen?
No. Donald Trump has shown not only does he not give a hoot about any of these proceedings. He's been reportedly spending a lot of the time playing golf until now during these hearings, maybe catching a few highlights. It shows his disdain, his dismissiveness of what he has called, and he did this throughout his presidency, anytime he came under scrutiny or criticism or calls for accountability on an action he took, he would dismiss it as a witch hunt. So nothing in Donald Trump's mind sticks to him. This is a man who is permanently aggrieved, who permanently sees himself as a victim or does a very good job of playing one. And even now, as this committee is going down, he is still hard at work and has been in the past couple of weeks, still trying to overturn this election. He put in a call to the Speaker of the State Assembly, to a state assembly member in Wisconsin, trying to see 18 months after the election, almost 2 years into Joe Biden's presidency, whether or not the 10 electoral votes that went to Joe Biden in the state of Wisconsin can be rescinded. And the man he called, a Republican official, said, sorry, Mr. President, but our state constitution does not allow him to do that. But it really gets you inside the mind of Donald Trump, that he is actually thinking 18 months out of this, that there's still a way of reeling back the results of the 2020 election, overturning those results, and perhaps reinstating himself as president. He is living in not just a parallel dimension reality, but an alternate reality.